Johnny.
Hi, James.
Lovely to meet you. How are you doing?
Nice to meet you. You okay?
Excited to chat to you about
Brilliant,
Charlton. But we're going to make our way to your manager's office, if that's right. Show me around.
No problem.
Normally this wouldn't work with people who have just come into a club to manage them.
Right,
but you're right, aren't you?
You've
been here a while, right?
So
you know the place,
yeah. I know the script.
Go on then.
I know what most rooms are for.
Yeah.
Not allowed in that one.
Not allowed in that one. Good.
Right, so this is our sports science office. Here's the boys.
Okay. Hello. Working hard, straight on it. Go.
Always, yeah, always.
Josh and Ben.
How you doing, guys?
These are lads who crunch the data. Here's our gym.
Okay.
So you get a few of the injured boys. John Lico.
Soon back.
Soon back.
Unfortunately,
Ready.
not available for the weekend, but
Next week I'm back.
maybe after that. So he'll just be doing his rehab with Sam. So this is the physio room. Shouldn't be too many in here. Oh, there's a couple hanging about.
Guys.
So the boys just in here. Well, we've got one injured player and we've got two hanging about for rubs, I guess.
Okay. So you want as few people in here as possible, really?
Well, yeah, ideally. I mean, he's got the list up there. The red are the injured, the green are the fit. We want obviously as much green as we can get.
Wow.
We need everyone available for selection, eh, Ed? Well, I do anyway.
I bet you do, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Because we're coming into that turn now, aren't we? There's so many games coming up.
It's
So
gonna go
many
mad.
games.
It's going to go crazy over the winter.
Yeah.
It's our data. It's our analyst
Oh wow.
office.
It's toasty in here, guys.
There's
isn't it?
Brett. There's our head analyst.
How's it?
So he'll be working on the up and coming opposition and having a look at them, feeding me the info.
Oh, fascinating.
So me and Brett work really closely about what we're going to present to the players, what the opposition are going to do, what we're going to try and do to them, what we're going to work on in training.
Is there anything you could give us in terms of certain things that you generally like to look
Right,
out
well,
for?
I won't tell you.
Not too much, yeah.
I won't tell you his name, but I suspect that there was someone out there in training today that might not have been quite at it. So I've asked Brett to have a little look back at. Well, I haven't asked you yet, but I'm going to ask you to have a little look back at training just to see if what I thought I saw marries
The
up
eye
with.
test matches. Wow. There's
no
no hiding place.
No more, no. Training gets filmed, so you can't have a down day.
Wow.
He was walking around.
Who's this guy?
Oh, I don't know, it's just someone come off
Some
the
fella.
street.
The cafe there.
And here's the gang. Jason Yule, Glyn Schimmel,
Hello.
goalie coach, assistant
Nice to meet you.
caretaker
Hi,
manager.
James. Nice to meet you both. How you
This
doing?
is generally the office where we, where we sit most of the time during the day, planning training, planning who's going to play at the weekend, who's not going to play at the weekend. So this is generally the office that you would use if if you're having meetings with players, one-on-ones, things like that. Just a sort of an office that you can use to have a bit of your own time or your quiet time.
Can we have a quick one-on-one then? Is that
We can
all
do
right?
that.
Johnny, this is new for me, obviously meeting yourself, but it's new for you as well. But as you've just sort of shown me, you know every nook and cranny of Charlton Athletic. Would you consider yourself, is this your club? Are you a Charlton man now? Would you consider yourself that?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I mean, I've been here so long now. It's been such a big part of my life that I very much sort of feel like it's my club. Feel part of it. I mean, I grew up as an Arsenal fan as a kid, and I still like Arsenal. But when I look back on my career and what Charlton's give to me, and the memories I've got of my career, even though I played for other clubs, I'll always look back at my Charlton time as the fondest period and the longest period. And obviously it's still going, it's ongoing. So I mean, I've been here like pretty much a third of my life nearly. So it's quite a long time, isn't it?
So does that make you were a North London boy?
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a South London boy?
A bit of both. A bit of both. I live north, but I have to come south every day. So. Yeah, I mean, I grew up central London as well, so I'm a London boy, and I think Charlton's a proper London club as well, so you feel that sort of integration and that community feel straight away. So,
obviously, as you say, player for several years, coach for a few years, now currently the manager of Charlton. When you become a Charlton man, I always think this with those cult heroes, those fan favourites, is there a moment, and I would guess it might have been in your playing career, is there a moment where you go, oh, then this is my club now?
It's a good question. I remember because I'd always done well against Charlton when I played against them when I was younger. Then I scored my only goal for Spurs against Charlton at the Valley. And I always felt that there was, like, I don't know, something weird there. And then even before I came on loan here, I nearly signed the summer before. I was talking to Phil Parkinson about signing at that stage, and it never happened for whatever reason. So I always felt like I would end up here, and then I eventually signed on loan. So I remember playing my first game at the Valley and thinking, like, this was a long time coming. Like, I was due to play at this place for this team a long time ago. But then I suppose it takes a while, maybe your first goal, or to really sort of become part of it. But I think if I look back, I think the moment, if you like, I became a Charlton man was probably when Chris Powell gave me the armband, and I became captain, and you become sort of the senior figure of the team, someone who people look up to. You build that rapport with the supporters. I think that was the moment, and that was the season. I think that it really sort of, we became part of each other, if you like.
Can you remember that conversation? Because I think, was it up for grabs, the captaincy?
Yeah. So what Powley would do is, it was me and Matt Taylor, who's the Exeter manager now, and during the pre-season he'd give Matty the armband in one game, then he'd give me the armband, and then he'd go back to Matty, and we'd be like, "What's happening here?" Like, he's obviously sussing us both out. And then I think it was probably the week before the season started, he sat us both down and he said, "Look, I've decided that Jacko, you're going to be the captain. Matt, you're going to assist him. You're going to be the vice captain." And that was it. From there on in, I was captain until I retired.
Because it feels like, everyone has a journey at different places, and if some are lucky enough to, they do stay in one place for a bit and not become part of the furniture, but become part of the history of it all. There's a sort of like a blossoming that happens. And it feels like when I was thinking about chatting with you and having a look at your history with Charlton, it really does feel like that for you in terms of your journey as a professional within football. When you become captain, does that move you into like a new stage of life as a footballer, where you kind of look at the wider aspects of Charlton? Because I imagine before that, understandably and rightly, it's a selfish life as a footballer. It needs to be, doesn't it? You need to focus on yourself and get yourself in the team. Once you become a captain, a leader, does that make you look at things a little bit differently? And did that make you start to look at both the club and, I guess, your future a little bit differently?
It did for me. It was a massive thing for me, being given the captaincy. Obviously, I arrived here as a loanee, on loan from Notts County, and you don't really build that affiliation. And I only played sort of 4 or 5 games, got injured, went back, and then I signed the following summer and had quite a successful season personally. Then I was given the captaincy the following season, and that's when it sort of I really sort of felt that extra responsibility. So like what you spoke about there, that now people are looking up to you. It's a big football club with big support, and you're captain of it. That's a big role to play. So when people were coming to the club, I found it my responsibility to let them know what it was, who it was that they was joining, and make them well aware of what it was to play for Charlton. So I definitely took that on board. I'm not saying everyone does that with a captaincy, but for me, it certainly felt like an extra responsibility that I wanted to go above and beyond in that role.
Is that something you'd had previous in your career? Is that sort of a role that you felt comfortable with?
Yeah, I'd been captain at different clubs. I was never sort of the club captain at Colchester, but I often captained the side. It was something I felt really comfortable with, and something I felt ready for. So I remember when Powley was flip-flopping between me and Matty, that desperately hoping that it would be me.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I wasn't bothered either way. Like, I really, really wanted it. So I was determined, that he'd shown that faith in me, that I'd repay him and be the best captain I could be.
So captaincy is leadership, and then as your career progresses, you start to think about life after football. As someone who felt natural as a captain, often we kind of look at those players and think, oh, they'll be great managers. Is that something that you would straight away, you were thinking manager, or were you thinking coach was enough? Did you always want that top job?
When around the time I was given the captaincy, I don't think I'd really thought too much beyond playing at that stage. It was only sort of got into my late 20s, maybe 30 that I started thinking about the future and coaching, stuff like that. And then with the coaching, and the more you delve into that and do your courses, the more I started to look at other coaches and other managers and what they'd do, and then started to really sort of fancy that role, something that I looked at and I thought I'd like to do that one day. You know, that's something that I think I would enjoy and something that I'd be good at. So it sort of developed. I guess as a captain and as an older player, you start becoming a bit of a coach anyway whilst you're still playing. Then I became a player coach, so I was actually still playing and dipped my toe into coaching then you become coach, assistant manager.
What was that like? What was the start of that like? Because I guess that's just, you know, you get to have a little taster of it, and you can walk away or stick with it. What did you love about it?
Well, with the player coach stuff.
Yeah, you know, dipping into coaching.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. Carl Robinson brought me onto his staff whilst I was still a player, and that was brilliant for me. Carl was fantastic in those early days, that he'd give me a lot of sort of licence out on the pitch to come up with things and ideas, and showed a lot of faith in me, really. My playing days were winding down. I was well aware of that. Wasn't as good or as effective or picked as often as I used to be. So the coaching side of it gave me something. It gave me that little bit of fulfilment when you wasn't getting your playing fix, if you like. But it's a difficult role, and I think if you do it for longer than a season, perhaps, I would have found that tough, because it's that fine line. What are you now? Are you a player? Are you a coach? I wasn't much value as a player anymore, but I wasn't doing loads of coaching, and I wasn't throwing myself into it as much as maybe I should have been at that stage. It's getting that balance, and I think if I'd have done it for longer than a year, I think I would have struggled with it. It's like you have to be one or the other, really. But it was good. It was a good way to get going.
Because I think something that's probably quite unique in yourself, more so than the 99% of people that become coaches, is that you kind of stayed at the same club with the same group of people. That must lead to some challenges, mustn't it, with people who are your mates, still your friends, but you know, you're in a professional capacity. You have to kind of, I don't know, you tell me, does the relationship change there a little bit?
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, like, sort of straight away when I retired, become a coach, like, you leave the WhatsApp group.
You
you've got that. You have to.
All those gifts lost.
You have to step away. Yeah, all the jokes, and I can imagine the stick that I probably got.
Yeah.
After I come away, but it was necessary. Yeah, so they do. You sort of do go from being pals to colleagues, if you like, overnight, pretty much.
Is that like a case-by-case basis in terms of those guys who were your mates? Some will understand that we all need to move on, and others will be like, oh, hang on a minute, you're talking to me differently yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think your relationships are still relationships, and I like to think I'm good with people, and probably the way I speak to people didn't change. It's just you naturally have a little bit more distance between you, and obviously spend less time with each other because you're now not in the changing room, you're the other side. You then have to start making or offering opinions on players and ex-teammates and making decisions on them, whether they play, whether they don't play, their futures and stuff like that. So naturally the relationships are different straight away. But yeah, I mean, it's still ongoing. Obviously I'm caretaker manager now, and there's still lads down there that I played with, which can be a real help at times, but there's going to be times when I'm leaving them out, and it's going to be like, oh, I thought we were pals or whatever. But it's you have to be professional. You have to make the right decisions. I just like to think that if you're consistent in what you do, and since I've been captain, coach, assistant, now manager, if you treat people properly the right way, I think you get that respect back regardless.
As you say, in the seat that you're in right now, what fascinated me was the idea that when you're an assistant manager, and I'd love to know how you would describe the role of an assistant manager, because you've worked with different people. But when you work with different people, inevitably, I'm guessing you'll take that and you'll take that, but it all gets kind of locked into your mind, and through respect of, I guess, of the hierarchy of the club and your role within that club, you kind of need to give your opinion at the right times, but also keep quiet at the right times, because different people have kind of different philosophies. So I'm really fascinated to know now that it's kind of getting a bit unlocked now, right? Now it's kind of like, well, here are the keys to the car, off you go.
Yeah.
Before I get to that, explain to me life as an assistant manager, because I think football fans will often kind of go, oh, he's just, he's a kind of guy who's in between who helps out a little bit, and he's the right-hand man of the manager. But I would imagine it's both very different to being the main man, but also, unique in itself. Like, how would you describe that assistant manager role in your time as an assistant manager?
I think it's a really niche role, because ultimately you're there to facilitate what the manager wants. Now, every manager is going to want something different. So the role, like for example, the role under Lee Bowyer was completely different to the role under Nigel Adkins, because they're very different people that want very different things from their teams. Their training's different. So you're very much able to come up with your own ideas and offer them up. But ultimately, the manager will make the decision and say, right, this is what I want today. So can you facilitate that? And that can be very varying depending on who you're working for, I guess. So the assistant manager role will look different whatever club you go to, whoever you're working for. There'll be overlaps. I imagine most places you're always the buffer between the players and the manager. There'll always be a little bit of distance there, and if they don't quite want to go and knock on the manager's door, they'll pull you. I imagine that's very similar at most clubs, but some managers will want the assistant to do all the coaching. Some managers will want to dip in and out themselves. Other managers will like to do the shape, but then don't want to get involved during the week. And some will pick the team themselves, and some will want an idea, like everyone to have an input in that. So it's so varying, I'd imagine, depending on, obviously I've only worked as an assistant under 2 managers, and they was very, very different. So I imagine that's the case, across the board.
What did you collect then? Because I imagine that happens all the time, both even as a player as well. I'm sure there's little things you'll kind of remember. We were chatting before we were recording. You have 500 games. You're going to pick up a few things. What have you collected that you're kind of excited to, or you want to be part of your identity moving forward as a manager?
I think you just collect little bits and bobs from everyone, really, and you see a lot of what you like, what you don't like. How certain managers deal with players, deal with the media, deal with the press, stuff like that. And I learnt a lot from both Lee and Nigel in that regard. Some what to do, some what I wouldn't do. And then also out on the grass, you're seeing different ideas, different approaches to games. 2 completely different styles of manager, different styles of man management, different ways that they wanted their team to play. And again, you take stuff that you like, stuff that you don't like. You offer up ideas, but you're always going to maybe hold a little bit back for yourself, that one day when, like you say, you are given the keys, okay, well, how are you going to drive the car? You have to have your own ideas as well. So it's picking up little bits and bobs, and also ones that you've played for down the years. What snippets of what you remember. I look back at Chris Powell and how he dealt with his players. So if I look back on that era, I remember the relationships and the way he spoke to his players and how he motivated you, rather than any of the content of the sessions on the grass. That's what I took from him as his strength, and I learnt a lot from him in that regard. Carl Robinson was one of the best coaches I've ever seen on the grass and in the classroom, and how he'd break everything down tactically, and you just learn the different facets of it.
And of course, you bring your own personality to these things as well, and I think that's from what we've seen in terms of your career, in terms of, I think anyone I've spoken to or read anything about yourself, everyone likes you. If you didn't know that,
I like
So you want to take those bits, but I guess you want to put forward your own personality as well. For anyone who doesn't know you or the manager that you are and want to be, what does your personality bring? What would you say is what do you think that you bring as a manager or want to bring?
Well, I want my team to reflect myself, and that team would be much in the mould of how I played football. So I like to think I was wholehearted. Gave everything 100%. That was the first and foremost. I think that's a given. Whatever you do, whatever you're going to take on, you have to, give it everything you've got. And I expect that from my players, and that's how I coach, and that's how the messages that I put across to them. And then I'm still a young coach, so I still like to be out there on the grass. I want to take sessions. I've got ideas about the game. I want to play a young, attacking, energetic brand of football. Again, that was how I tried to play the game, and that's what I've tried to instill in my team from the off, really. So, yeah, it's you want your team to reflect you and your personality, and I would say that those are my qualities.
Going into this season, there's so many big teams in League One this year, so many good teams, so many good managers, and going into it, I think Charlton, from the outside, it looked like they were kind of in the middle of the pack, but could be, Charlton's a huge club, so it could be a club that could go and maybe be one of those 15 teams that want to get themselves into the playoffs this year. But it didn't start off great, and that's why you're in the seat that you're in. We don't need to focus on Nigel Adkins, but in terms of the performances, what do you think was the problem? Because obviously the results weren't there.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one because I think we've got good players, and for whatever reason, I mean, it's more than one thing why we wasn't picking up results. But like you say, it's not been my focus to worry about what was going wrong. It's what do I see that these players are capable of? What can I bring them? What messages can I give? How can I set us up? So I've just tried to give clarity, clear messages, be very, very sort of firm with what I want, starting with that hard work, that endeavour, playing for the shirt, because I think we've got good players down there. That bit was never in doubt, and if you looked at our squad on paper and said, there's a list of players and that's where they are in the league, you would be scratching your head. So I was keen to put that bit right, but it had to start from saying to them, look, no one's impressed so far, so you're all playing for the shirt. When you get it, don't give me an excuse to drop you, because someone else will come in, and if you don't keep your place in the team, if you don't warrant it, you'll be out, next one will be in, and if you're not pulling your weight, it's just sort of simple messages like that. Try to bring a bit more intensity to training, but I know what, I think being fresh out the game, I know what players want, I know what they want to hear, and you have to give them a little bit of that. Can't have everything that they want, but I think it's certainly wise to listen to your players. And there's a good group of lads down there with, a mix of youth and experience. So I do lean on the experienced players as well, and just get a feel for what they're hearing and what they're thinking and their feedback. I think it's always important to get feedback from your players. So you're just in a constant dialogue that way, and you can help each other.
That clarity that you speak of, it's interesting, because I think often people on the outside who don't know everything can start to sort of try and read between lines and pick at things and kind of make it deeper than it needs to be. Sounds like someone like yourself who's so ingrained in this club and knows everyone so well. It sounds like it was quite relaxed. It's like, well, you said it in the other room, it wasn't working, so we needed to change something. I've also realised that there's a lot of people that work at Charlton. So what I did want to go to was that starting point, those first couple of days when you've been caretaker before, you've been assistant manager for a little period of time. Do you walk into the training ground and do you start with, okay, give myself half an hour and go, these are the little tweaks I want us to make? Or was it one where you went into the room with Glyn and Jason and said, okay, guys, let's have a discussion about it? What was your starting point in terms of taking over this time around?
Yeah, I mean, I was keen to sort of walk through the door and let it be known that there was someone new, and it was a new voice with new ideas, because if a new manager from outside had walked into the training ground, that's what would have happened.
You wanted that new energy? I
wanted a new energy, yeah. So I was keen to... And we had a meeting, all of us, staff, players, everyone here at the training ground, and we said that a good man has lost his job, and we've all played a role in that. That's just the truth of the matter. That we was all here, we all played our role, big or small, and whatever we was doing wasn't working. So we all had to ask ourselves what we was going to do different. Because, like I said, what hadn't been working, we need to bring something different. So me as a coach or manager, I have to present something different to you players that you can get your teeth into. Jason as a coach, Glyn as a coach, what fresh ideas can you bring? What fresh impetus? And the players, what are you going to do differently? Because what you've been doing, you can't just blame on the manager and the coaches. It's a collective, isn't it? So what you've been doing is not good enough. So I'm gonna give you something new. What are you gonna give me? Was the message.
And they've given you some points, haven't they? It's been a decent start so far. Tactically, on League of 72, we always like to kind of dive into those elements of it. What are the little tweaks that you've made? I know the formation has changed a little bit, but are you able to go into a little bit more detail over what you wanted in terms of making that change on the pitch?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the formation changes has helped us. So I think having the two up front in this league is something that I think causes other teams a lot of problems. Had success when Lee Bowyer was the manager and I was assistant. We played that way. We either played a 3-5-2 or 4-diamond 2, if you like. But we pretty much always had those two strikers, and we had success doing it. I think it works at this level. So that was something that I thought I could tweak pretty easily and pretty quickly. So obviously came up with the 3-5-2 formation that we've been playing since I came in. Obviously I know you have to be adaptable with that at some stage, but I'm pleased with where we're at with that and how much coaching we've been able to do in that system. And I think one of the other things that we've now become a high pressing team, whereas before we was maybe caught a little bit in between. Do we go and press? Are we staying compact in a shape? So I think a noticeable difference would be that we're a bit more front foot. We're going after teams higher up the pitch, knowing that if they do manage to break our press, then we have a plan underneath that as well. But it's very much nearest man going to the ball, your mate then backing you up, and then the other mate backing you up, and everyone being in sync really. And then just that hard work, that graft, making sure that when you are going to press, you mean it. It's not half-hearted. I hate half-heartedness. I won't have it. So
I noticed that the club put out some footage of a camera in the changing room after the game, and you come in and although the subtitles were missing a few words starting with F that I was able to capture, but
football.
Football. It's football. That's it. But I thought was really fascinating was first thing you said. This doesn't stop here. Yeah. Don't take your foot off the gas. You can come in on Tuesday, we'll let you off with that. But don't stop here. What struck me with that was, it seems like you're excited. You're excited to be in this role, and I guess excited to see a reaction. Like how has that been? Because it's been phenomenal.
It's been unbelievable. I keep saying I can't credit the lads enough, because I came in with these messages and pretty confident that I would be able to get it across, but you're still just hoping, because let's be frank, what I'd seen before, there was question marks about a lot of players and attitudes and things like that. Now I took a leap of faith that they would come with me, and I've got to say they've been absolutely magnificent. So literally everything I've asked of them, they're doing, and I think I'm excited because I can see that they're excited, and I think that they believe in it. They're enjoying the way that we're playing. They're enjoying the hard work, which I think if you can get them in a place where they're loving running and pressing and doing that, and the good football just comes hand in hand with that. We've done a lot more out of possession stuff than we've done in possession, but already in possession we're keeping the ball better. We're getting our attacking players in better positions than we was. We're getting more bodies in the box. And that's down to them really, because we've been working on it out there, but we've been giving them clear messages, and you hope that they're going to take it on board, and they have. They've been absolutely brilliant.
I always find it interesting the fact that you start as a player, you kind of get to the end of that, and I'd imagine you feel a bit old by the end of it, right? And then you retire, become a coach, and you're a baby again, right? Ryan Lowe was talking about you and in glowing terms, and saying, this should be your job. People shouldn't be afraid of young managers. Do you agree with that? And what do you see as the difference between young managers and older managers? Because it does feel like, I've heard a lot of people talking about this season in particular, that there is that kind of, you've got your Neil Warnocks and your Mick McCarthy's, and then there feels like there's this sort of gap in between, and then that you've got these young, exciting managers as well. Like, do you feel different as a younger manager?
Yeah, you do. You do. I agree with Lowy, absolutely. And he's a case in point of what he's done with that Plymouth side, and I know him really well. And
you pinched his formation.
I pinched his formation, yeah, which he likes to tell me about. But what he's gone and done with that youthful energy, and he's got Shuey in there with him as well as his assistant, and we're all quite fresh out of the game, so we understand players, we understand modern football. I think we've got a youthful energy for it. Like you say, you go from being an old man as a player to retire, and the next day you're a young man in the coaching game. And I think all of us have got that youthful energy that you need out there on the grass, you need in the changing room when you're speaking to players, and you can relate to them because you're quite fresh out of the game and you've got fresh ideas. So I certainly see a swing going towards the younger coach, the younger manager. And perhaps a more exciting brand of football.
In terms of that word exciting again, I think the place to finish off is the future and what you would love to do with this Charlton side and Charlton as a football club. What would it mean to you to, I'm not putting any labels on this season because there's a bit of a gap to squash, but how would it feel to achieve something and win a playoff or get promoted with this Charlton side as manager?
I think it'd be the greatest honour of my career, to be honest. Even getting the promotion as an assistant manager was right up there with anything I'd done as a player. So I think if you was managing a team to that sort of honour, I think that would. I remember speaking to Lee Bowyer about it, and he said that coaching a team to promotion was better than anything he'd done a player. And look at the career that he had. So I think it's extra special because you're not just responsible for yourself; you're overseeing a whole team, and I think the pride that would come with that would be surpass anything I ever done as a player.
Perfect. That's me done.
All right.
Love chatting to you.
Nice one, James.
Cheers, Johnny.
Thanks
a lot.
Nice one. Enjoyed that.
Amazing.